which means the most important thing anybody can do in the world is learn to be sensitive. And we have an entire world of telling people to suck it up and not feel anything and just go to work and be fine with it. And it's just like, that's why I use crystal bowls. They're the fastest way to feel what's called a soul emotion. And then our parents say something to us that sounds really nice, but it's really the greatest curse that you can give to a child by telling him, oh, honey, you can be anything you want to be. And now the child knows that you're not saying that because you like what they're being. And then they vow to be what they think you want them to be. And then you realize that you can only do one thing in your life, which is what you knew as a kid. When you were 2 or 3 years old, you woke up every day and were like, I'm back. What am I going to do today? And you knew exactly how you're going to operate in anything that you do, because there's only one energy in you.
Hi, and welcome to Unlocking the Miracles with Anna. This is episode 17. We're almost in the last quarter of the season here. Aligning with divine purpose. And I have my good friend here, Rhys Thomas, from Rhys Thomas Institute.com. Rhys, I'm so glad to have you on the show, and thanks for joining me. Rhys is an amazing...
Jeffrey. Love you and your work. It's fantastic.
Thanks for being here. Rhys is an amazing healer. Rhys and we met probably maybe 9-10 years ago, something like that. It's been a while. And Rhys's main focus and why I think we resonate so much together is around people finding the purpose they were created to live. And he does amazing work around that. Please check him out at his website, Rhys Thomas, RHYS Thomas, THOMAS, Institute.com. And we'll have all of those links within the description of the show. So, don't scramble too much. If you're listening to the show or watching the show, you'll see it right in the description. We'll have those available for you. And other websites and offerings that Rhys has too, we'll have on there. Rhys does a lot of different things relative to energy healing and working with the energy body. And I also love Rhys's sound healing work. You can see all those crystal bowls behind him there. He just does amazing work with that. So there you go. So we'll have an interesting journey. I don't know where Spirit's going to take us today, but I know many folks will be definitely interested in how do I align with my divine purpose, my divine calling. And you specialize in this, so this is going to be a lot of fun. And Rhys and I have had many discussions over the years, but, I still love diving deep because I'm sure Rhys is going to bring out some things that I just didn't know about him or his work or, what he's been doing up to lately. We haven't actually talked for some months, so it'll be fun to see where the journey's taken him. Rhys, do you want to say anything to the audience?
Glad to be here, and I love to share this work. As Jeffrey says, I've been running an energy medicine school for 25 years, and using sound healing and pretty much I integrate over 40 different healing modalities into my school, because I've always found that it's not really about the technique. It's about what do you bring to it. That it's, you can have a great technique, but if you have a great healer, they can use any technique. and sort of getting that really deep and just like, not just for healing work, but for work, for relationships. If you know how to bring your best and you really can feel it in the core of your being, as I've got these
your great images
of the actual energy body. And so I try to, most people, they want to get into spirituality, but they want to be able to have some practical application to their lives. And everything I do is very practical. I was a martial artist and a professional tennis player before I got into energy work. And I was always like, okay, is this going to make my life better? Is this going to make me happier? And rather than, am I going to be more spiritual? I never really worried about that part. So I'm happy to be here and happy to share as much as we can get in our hour here.
Yeah. So I want to, that's great. I knew you were a professional tennis player. I knew you were a martial artist. So let's go back in history a little bit. I want to know, when back in the time before you knew your passion was helping people transform and to discover the purpose they were born to be or created to be in. When did that happen for you? And yeah, I mean, you started this when you were 5, right? Because you look about 30. So there you go. So,
Yeah.
you know, take us
So,
back. Take us back on the time machine.
so, so like everybody, well, for me, I've always been a dreamer. I've got a great shirt that says "Dreamer by Nature," and my dad in the summer times was a tennis pro. He was a school teacher during the year at a private school in Cambridge, and then in the summers he was a tennis pro. And so I was like, I'm going to be a tennis pro. And then he would take us to watch the Australians and all these, and then it was the Swedes, and I was just, it was just like, I am so going to be, a pro tennis player. And but I was also, a little kid dreaming and things like that. And like most kids around 8 or 9 years old, you realize, oh, I better get serious about this. So at 8 years old, I started playing tennis tournaments. And my dad was like, okay, take you to the tennis tournament, you can play. But I at 8 years old was watching John Newcomb. I was like, I'm going to be John Newcomb, because he was this flamboyant, fun-loving Australian, handsome, big, handlebar mustache, and just a spectacular human being. And I was like, that's what I'm going to be. But he was hitting the ball really hard and coming in and volleying and also. So I'm 8 years old and I'm out there hitting the ball as hard as I can and running at the net. And of course, I don't win a point in any tournament for like 4 years. I literally go to all these tournaments, and then that dream of being that person, which I never stopped wanting to serve and volley, wanting to be like those guys. I didn't want to be a 10-year-old hitting the ball like a little poof ball just to win. I wanted that. And at 14, I grew like a foot and a half, and all of a sudden, I'm one of the top players in my section. I'm playing nationally. And it's because I had this natural ability to sort of stick with my dream. And it wasn't a dream like I want to be this so other people. I got no positive feedback for what I was doing. Every coach I ever went to said, Rhys, you should just play football or something. You're never going to make it as a tennis player. And because I just didn't like to play along with the way everybody else did everything. I think it's the same thing with the way I teach healing. And but that sort of was the realization for me that as long as it's your dream and you're willing to stay with it, it's going to create something good in your life. Okay. And I was always a person that did that. So by 14, I'm teaching tennis. My dad was a tennis pro, so he'd give me all the lessons he didn't want. The early morning, I'd be teaching it. At 14, I'm going out and teaching at 6 a.m. in the morning to some, to doctors and people. And even then, I mean, my dad was one of the greatest tennis pros in the area and knew everything, and taught me everything about teaching. And even then, I'm teaching my own way of doing it. From 14, I'm saying, no, I want you to look the other way and hit the ball like this, because I knew that if they, they overthink it, and rather than just, or I'll tell them to do stuff like, okay, we're going to play an entire game here, and I want you to try to miss the court every time. Okay, so now these are people that are, intermediate players. They miss all the time. As soon as they're trying to hit the ball out of the court, they can't do it. And I was like, you see what happens when you all of a sudden, change the rules? And so I started doing that stuff at 14, 15, and then I got into martial arts, and I was a competitive, and I was, competitive player. And it just, it evolved. I fell in with Carlos Castaneda and the sort of like the Toltec way of understanding energy, and then of course the martial arts was teaching me about chi energy. And then, I had some loss in my life, and sort of some deep sort of soul searching and some awakening experiences that sort of showed me that the universe isn't exactly as we're told it is. And then in my in my 20s, I just started teaching my own sort of style. And it wasn't until I was really in my 30s that I that I sort of had been successful at doing everything that I should be doing and just felt, totally empty. And even though I was, in every possible way, I was successful. And I started looking for, and I had some chronic health issues that went along with the martial arts and the tennis and all that. And I went and saw a healer. And the very first time I went and saw her, and she was one of the top healers in the Barbara Brennan School at the time, which was super powerful. That was maybe one of the greatest healing schools created ever. And she was there in the heyday of it. And I went to her just out of the blue, just like, this isn't bad.
Mhm.
I'm this martial artist, pro athlete, sat down with her and had never met her before. Just someone had recommended her. I reached out through the Barbara Brennan network, and they said, well, if I were going to go see somebody, I'd see Jamie Faust. And I was like, okay, if you're the top of the heap and you would go to her, I'll start with that. I sat down with her, she was just in her apartment. She had just like her healing table in there. And as soon as she looked at me, I just started crying. Just tears just pouring down my face. And I was like grabbing the Kleenex and going, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening. What's going on? And I realized that there was a level of humanity, a level of connection, a level of soul connection that I had never experienced before. And I was hooked. And even though I had experienced a lot through all my athletics and having the camaraderie and the teamwork and all that stuff in college and all that, all super important in my growth. But it wasn't until I really got into energy work and this deep connection, soul to soul, that I realized what was always happening. Even when I was playing against an opponent, the two souls were learning things from each other. We were playing and we were pushing each other to be even better than we were. So that was kind of like the early start.
It's a beautiful, and there's just a couple of things that hit me with that. And I think you and I probably talked about this in the past, but just the vision I get when and this is just generally for all of you out there. Rhys is, we're men, right? We're not necessarily trained to be vulnerable. Not supposed to cry, not be trained to be vulnerable, all those things. But all of us, male, female, it doesn't matter. We are always sharing energy. And when we connect with someone that is open or available or meant to be in our field, like a healer, it has this very specific resonance that it can, not always, but can, especially if it's intentional, to open doorways for whatever that next healing is, or that journey or opening or whatever. So how I would interpret what she went through in that moment was she was the perfect mirror for you for that next evolution in your journey, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful thing, even us as healers, and I think this is where Rhys and I have talked about it before, is you get to the point where you have your hands on somebody, or you're in someone's field, or you're in a room with them and you have intention, and then you start to realize that you're absolutely doing nothing. Like, I'm totally useless because the universe is freaking amazing, and I'm just sitting here watching.
And I am the universe. So how do I have to work at this?
That's right. You kind of just fall into this soup of beauty, and it's very humbling and very beautiful and inspiring, and it uplifts you. So you'll see a lot of people say that.
I've got a really cool thing to share with people. There's a lot of things that I teach that nobody bothers to teach, just because it's just too complicated. And I have the systems to actually help people really develop these skills. But one of the things that I was noticing about energy work is, and you were with me on the board where we were trying to save energy medicine
exactly.
in the country. And there's over 8,000 healing modalities in the United States alone. That was 10 years ago. And there must be, by now there must be 12,000 or more.
Yeah.
And here's my practical athlete, sort of like, okay, if you're going to do something, it should produce amazing results, or don't do it. And I was thinking, okay, 10,000 healing modalities, we should have people walking on water. There should be, you know, transcendence. There should be ascension going on. There should be, you know, there should be cancer being cured just, you know, just daily, ding, 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 ding. And it is actually in the placebo effect testing, but it's not from any more greater than what's already existed. So we haven't actually, and if anything, and I don't know what the cause of it is, but if anything, you know, if you look at the AI is telling you that, you know, the expectation of the NIH is that in the next few years there's going to be 20 or 30 more percent of all these illnesses rather than it getting better. So I'm thinking, we got all this healing work going on. You know, what's really happened? And one of the things that I've discovered, and in working with healers, is we've all been so indoctrinated into this idea that there's either a doctor or a healer and a person receiving the doctoring or the healing. But when I really have developed this feeling for what's called the Vesica Piscis, which are the two circles with the fish in the middle, you know, with the eyeball in the middle of that, which is part of the flower of life, which is what creates all matter. Right, every atom is just like a circle with a dot in the middle of it, and those all link together, and they create a beautiful circle, you know, circle of life here. And when you're looking at it at the individual thing, so you're saying when you come into relationship with somebody or a healer, what I discovered was that as long as the healer thought they had the technique to heal the person, they never healed the person, or very rarely. There would be just the placebo effect, maybe 30%. They'd have healings, but that would be about it. They wouldn't. But the great healers heal at like 80 or 90%. And you know, that's what we were studying. That's what Melinda was out studying and trying to find things. And I was like, okay, we got to find out why that is. What's that person doing? Because they're just doing, you know, they'll say they're just doing Reiki or, you know, Qigong or whatever they're saying they're doing, but they're having this enormous difference in healing ability. And so what I figured out was that when two souls get together, it creates our two energetic bubbles. You know, we look at the energy field back here. Those two energy fields, they create this unique section between you. Okay, so there's two circles, both here, and what's outside of that circle means nothing to either one of you. Okay, so you're thinking, I'm a doctor, I'm a healer, I knew all of these things, and I'm going to give them to you, and none of them make any difference at all except for the things that are just inside that one thing. And so when a healer develops their sensitivity to these very subtle things going on, what we find out is that the entire healing is manifested by the person receiving the healing, because they're capable, their energy body, as soon as they meet that doctor or that healer, their energy body says, this person can't help me with any of this shit, but this thing that person can do. And they may not even know they're capable of doing it. And so what a master healer is doing is they come into a relationship and they don't go with their pat, I'm going to do some Reiki on you, or I'm going to do this on you, I'm going to do that on you. They realize, I've never even thought of that before, because they receive that. And then the realization is that, oh, of course, this person couldn't, their soul would not ask me to do something that I'm not capable of doing. And when healing is like that, it comes at a much higher level. And so a master healer, you might go in and lay down on the table and they start doing the healing. And they're like, hey, you know what? We're going for a walk, right? And you're like, what? Because they'll know intuitively that out in the sun, out in the nature, out in whatever, that's when they'll be able to transform you. They won't even question that their technique is the thing that's going to make the healing, because it's not. Their ability to connect. And so rather than thinking doctors heal people, people go to doctors, and when they heal, it's because they were open to just sort of being present and allowing their energy to inspire that doctor to do something sometimes they've never done before. So if they're just handing you the same pill they handle everybody, you're not going to get better. But when they're like, hey, you know, I haven't really thought about this, but maybe we ought to try this. And now that's when the two souls are healing each other. So the doctor needs the healee to make them a better doctor every time they have a patient. And the healing needs that doctor to do something that they've probably never done with anybody else ever. And so that little world is something I share it with you now because most people are never going to talk about that. They talk about the Vesica Pisces, they talk about the flower of life, but they have no idea what it's really doing. What it's really doing is getting souls to talk to each other to create this vibrant, sort of healing world.
I love how you laid that out because that's exactly, Rhys connected with me when I ran Donna Eden's work, and Donna Eden is an amazing healer, and she's an amazing teacher. But I actually sat down with Donna one day, and I said, "Well, we all know, we say all the time that people heal themselves, and so when you fall into that, when someone, I always call it intimacy, when someone opens their energy and they trust you and they're intimate enough with you, and you can hold that space where they can heal." And you're absolutely right. I always say we have an imprint. We're meant to open the doorways to healing. And if we're doing our role as whatever you want to call it, healers, I'd kind of call it a witness, then we can open those doorways for that person to self-heal. And we're not really doing anything. We're just this beautiful, energetic.
Well, we are. We're literally being called to our purpose in life. So,
Yeah.
so a doctor's purpose in life is rarely ever to be a doctor. It's to be something for other people that inspires them to be better, which is really every position, right?
Yeah.
Theirs just happens to be around health. But rather than getting caught, most people get caught in their profession or their technique,
Yeah.
and they never get beyond them. That's why we have 8,000 healing modalities, and we're not seeing people. The level of healing in the world should be infinitely more.
You're jumping to where I was going. Obviously, that's how we work. This gets to the whole show because I was going to say the same thing. You're talking about it from a healing perspective,
Right.
but it's the same for teachers, the same for policemen or police people, security people or whatever. Same for any position, leaders in business, because it's about you're there to serve others, and where your the importance is where your energetic state is at. If you can actually be available to serve others, which goes to the whole show, which is
Right.
which is your gift. How do
Which
you uncover your
means-
divine purpose, right?
Which means the most important thing anybody can do in the world is learn to be sensitive. And we have an entire world of telling people to suck it up and not feel anything and just go to work and be fine with it. And it's just like, so when I do, that's why I use crystal bowls. They're the fastest way to feel what's called a soul emotion, right? And so there's another idea that I use the crystal bowls to easily fix is this idea that the thoughts in your head don't come from your head.
Mm.
They come from your energy centers. And if you have a negative thought in your head, you've got a block in that energy center. So the energy centers all have, massive, just like your brain has 100 billion neurons, so does your heart. So does your third chakra. So does your second chakra. There's a brain in every part of your body. And if you've got, let's say in your heart, you've been betrayed and you're like, I'm never going to trust anybody. Then you walk into relationships or people are like trying to make friends with you and you're like, and there's a thing in your head going on. And, or you don't trust yourself or you don't trust the situation. And what I've found is that, so let's do one. Want to try? We'll do one.
Yeah. This would be fun.
This. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about anything that's you're struggling either with a relationship, or a job, something you're working with, something you're just like, and that you're not just thinking about it now. This thing just rolls in your head like it's running your life right now more than your happiness. Okay. All right. So and everybody who's watching this, just pick something, whether it be like, think about your retirement account. Okay. That's always one that everybody will have
Everybody has something. I know this.
something, right? Okay. All right. So, and just take a breath and let it out. And then just let that vibration create feelings in your body. Just feel it, sense it. All right.
Man, I needed that.
Woo. Okay, so what did you feel when that bowl played, Jeffrey?
Man, that went right from my coccyx, my root chakra, all the way up through my head, and actually my ears kind of popped open.
Nice.
Yeah, it was.
So just so simply, your energy body knows the exact solution to the problem. Which was your problem that you were like, yeah, that's the
It's just
one.
my business.
Business.
It's, trying to get the business profitable. I mentioned that before the call. It was like, hey, I'm this business guy and I gotta get,
Right.
my mind's all wrapped around business
Right.
stuff.
And you're this structured business guy who starts in the first chakra and has to work it all the way up through each one of the chakras, mastering your emotions around it, mastering what I do around it, mastering the people I bring into it, how I speak to people. It finally gets up here, and then you realize you learn the fastest when you listen the most.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you take it in, you listen. And as good as that felt, right? Notice that you just seconds before your brain was right? I was like, that thing, right? But then it's gone. It's literally, I play the ball and it's gone. So that couldn't have been in your head. The neuroscientists say, oh no, all your thoughts are hardwired and these neural connections, and you've got this hardwired and you got this helmet on of things. And it's like, well, if that's true, me playing that bowl shouldn't have changed anything. But it did, because that thought doesn't come from your brain. It came from your chakras. And that bowl, especially your first chakra where it started, that's where you're like, we got to get the money together. We got to get the thing together. We got the people together, the structure. And it started right there. And then it said, you know what, when you bring this up through your energy up and transcend this, and then listen for your guidance, it'll be there.
Amen.
And now your energy body was like, it's going to happen. That's exactly how it's going to happen. And you can then take that to the bank, right? Rather than saying, I got to figure this out. And you keep, and I can tell you that is true for everything. People that have anxiety have had anxiety for years. I play one bowl and I'm like, how you feeling? Fantastic. My heart opened up, and I'm like, where's your anxiety? Oh, so the anxiety isn't actually a thing. It's a wound in one of your chakras. And so I use bowls, I use energy work, I use everything to help people realize, changing your life fast is easy if you're willing to shift your vibration and your energy.
So I'm going through a healing session here with Rhys for all of you folks, but hopefully you guys aren't driving when you're listening to bowls. Make sure you're sitting in a safe place and really dive into it. And if you are, just take some time later to re-listen to that part, because I think if you allow yourself to really dive into it. It was funny, the energetic feeling I had is, I'm such a tight ass, because it started right down there and then it went up. And I had this one other thing, and it can happen, folks, to people, because I don't try to make too much stuff of it, but what's been happening to me lately because of this little journey I'm on, which is good because I can look at myself and laugh. I do know what's going on. And, um, in my spine, I've had a very particular muscle around my third chakra that has been dancing every night. It's been trying to talk to me, I say. That's what it feels like.
Yep.
Just like poking out of my skin. So I'm like, okay. Anyway,
Well, take a look here
yeah.
at the chakras. Most people don't realize chakras have a front aspect, which is how they come into relationship with people, and a back aspect, which is how they take care of how they live their purpose. They're unique. So half of your energy, whoops, where are we here? Half your energy here is about standing fully in your life, and the other half is realizing that you can't figure out how to stand fully in your life to figure out the people in your life and these relationships that you have. So the back aspect, and each one is a very different. Funny, you think, well, my chakras got to have the same purpose. No, the front aspect is different than the back. The back aspect, right there in the middle of your back, right on the third chakra, is how you take care of yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Okay, specifically, like none of the other ones have that. That's the one where you discipline at every one of those levels. And if any one of those things, if you're not being sort of the highest integrity for yourself, not for everybody else, not anybody else's opinion, but how you take care of yourself spiritually, how you take care of yourself emotionally, are you pushing yourself too hard? Are you judging yourself too hard? Or physically, you're just overworking or something. That point is a bugger.
Well, you know what is that particular thing, and I hope there are folks also garnering something from this, outside of wanting to check out your work or to say, Rhys, do a session with me or whatever. Is that so affirming for me right now, very specifically, because the message I've been getting from Jesus is, I need you to give your mind, body, and you just said it, right? I need you to give your mind, body, and spirit all to me fully.
Right.
And you stop trying to, do it all, if you will, or to figure it out the Jeffrey way, right? So, in the Christian faith, it's surrendering to that divine energy, right? That field.
And what's the third chakra supposed to do? It's supposed to serve your divine purpose. But what it usually does is serves your ego purpose and your whim. Like, I got to win this. I got to get this. This has got to happen today. And the third chakra ends up working really hard when, it's not in the flow of life anymore. It's not the flow of the universe. And so yeah, that's awesome, Jeffrey. You got it. You want to heal that thing?
Yeah, of course I do. Hey, I'm sorry, everybody, that this has become my healing session, but hopefully.
No, listen, that's fun. And now a lot of people have third chakra stuff. So I can't move this because I actually have I have a brand new third chakra ball here. Here we go. Just close your eyes. All right. So what happened when that bowl played?
It was exactly that spot. Yeah, I just felt it open up right at the end there, which is interesting. Wow.
Nice. And how did that? And so, what emotion when it let go? What emotion did you have?
Just, that's I think the joy you mentioned, the fun, the silliness, the
right. Yeah. And so now, interestingly, it isn't about the shift. It's about the emotion that you got, which is the memory of what healing is. So when that's healed, you'll have that joy. That'll be the thing that heals it. So the thing about healing is it's not something that you heal and then you feel joy. The key is in healing, you remember what it's like to feel joy, and then that thing can't exist anymore because the reason was that you were working too hard and what you were trying to do in there. And that third chakra was grinding.
That's beautiful.
Love it.
So do
Love
the
it.
dance, Rhys, because this is your expertise.
Yeah.
And thank you for that. Bless you
Oh,
for
that was
that. I'm
fun.
sure.
I love bowls, and it's such an easy way to help people start bridging into energy work too, because it happens so fast. You don't have to
I'm
wait
so
weeks or
good with
months of
sound.
therapy. You
Yeah.
just play it, and you're like, oh, that's. I'm actually feeling great. Oh, that kind of great is what actually heals that problem.
Yeah. I'm sure
Yeah.
Jesus will be thankful too, because I wasn't listening too well.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, of course, Jesus is talking through both of us, right?
yeah, absolutely. Is that's one of my core principles is that it's in all of us. That's the
Yeah.
universe right within our, and we're all in one. But that story, that archetype, that you know, um, there's a lot. I look at that in our DNA. That is part of who we are, and I like playing in that world because I know that's where I've uh, I'm part of. I come from.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to do you to do the dance because I don't even think many people are realizing yet how this ties into their life purpose. So we
Ah,
we kind of need to do the little jig, the little
okay.
shuffle, and connect the dots for them because I think that's what's going to be like, blow their mind a little bit.
Right.
Over to you, my
So,
friend.
okay. All right. So life purpose, just like healing, just like everything we've talked about, is not what you've been told. Life purpose is never a job. It's never a thing you accomplish or anything like that. It's a quality of your being. It's that thing. It's that thing that if your grandmother were still alive, she would point her bony little finger at you and say, "You haven't changed one bit," right? It's that character that we have, and that's the most important element within us. It's where we heal from. It's where we enjoy our lives from. And we learn to sort of shut that down early in life because it's inconvenient for our parents for us to not speak their language or have their religion or behave like they do or behave like a boy should or behave like a girl should. And so we really shut ourselves down. And then our parents say something to us that sounds really nice, but it's really the greatest curse that you can give to a child by telling him, "Oh, honey, you can be anything you want to be." And now the child knows that you're not saying that because you like what they're being.
Mm.
And then they vow to be what they think you want them to be. And so this is where we get wounded. And then later in life, in our midlife crisis or the midlife, what I call the midlife calling, people come to me and Jeffrey and say, "What's wrong? Well, I've done everything right. Right? I've done everything right, and I still feel empty." That was me. That was how I got into energy work. So, one thing that I can tell you is that you can get an indication of what your purpose is by doing any of the current testing, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, DISC, you name it. There's 100 of them out there. The problem is that none of them will actually tell you who you are because those are all based on behavior, right?
Mhm.
They're behavioral studies, psychology, behavioral studies. If you act like this, that's who you are. But we all know how much people lie about who they are. How are you doing? Great. I'm fantastic. No, no, it's super good. I'm really. Are you upset about the fact that I ran into your car? No, no, no. That's totally fine. Everybody. It's like go over there and kiss your grandmother, and act like you want it. I, you know, from early on, we're taught to children. That's one of the coolest things that children learn is that they can lie, and they have fun with that. But then they have to actually lie about who they truly are. And later on, we take these tests and we find out, oh, this is how I'm behaving. So I'm behaving like a caretaker. I must be a caretaker. That must be who I am. But a lot of people behave like caretakers who aren't caretakers. And so if I move here, so you can see the chakras here. That was what we were playing with Jeffrey. Okay, chakras just open and close. They're really easy to heal. and also they don't heal permanently. So no healing actually happens in chakras. This is why these 8,000 healing modalities that are 99% of them are based on chakras don't actually heal you, because chakras don't heal anything. And this guy over here, soul bowl, souls do. And this is the missing piece in all energy work. And this is if you want to take this to its sort of like what it actually looks like and what people are calling it, the torus field or the Merkaba that people talk about, that's this swirling vertical line of energy. It has a gravity line in the center of it, just like a galaxy does, and it spins matter into being. And that matter it spins into being are your chakras and your body, right? So where are we going? This way. Okay, where I can't do it with that.
For those listening to this,
Anyway.
Rhys is showing images, which hopefully we can get some to share with the community, or at least link them to your website where you have
I will show that. Okay, so picture that you've got a vertical line of energy in the center of your body. I learned this not through energy work, but I learned this through martial arts. This is the what's called the Dantian, and it's this vertical line of energy that goes from heaven above your head to the center of the earth and locks you into this.
And I think there's Donna calls that the Taji pole. There's different terms in different cultures for the same kind of energy line, right?
Absolutely. And every martial artist, every athlete is training this energy. They haven't figured out that on that pole there are 3 points of consciousness, which we're not going to get into today. But without knowing those 3 points of consciousness, you don't really understand why you have the body you have, because this is the difference between my system of soul profiling and any of the other behavioral studies, is that of course, if you have a very specific purpose to your creator, your body's going to match that perfectly. And so there are literally 5 kinds of souls on the planet, and of course all of the Hermetic rule talks about these 5 basic elements that everything in the universe is made of, which science can validate. That there's fire, earth, water, air, and ether. Those are the 5 elements. And those 5 elements combine to create all form, all matter, all life. All life is created in those. So the soul comes in totally non-form consciousness that says, I'm going to create a Rhys, or I'm going to create a Jeffrey, right? And it starts spinning the universe, right? The dark matter just starts spinning, and it creates this Merkaba, and it puts you on this little blue planet called Earth, and it locks you there and says, you're going to be living this life here, and you better create the specific body, where am I here? The specific body, emotions, consciousness, and energy, and all of those contracts are in this vertical line of energy. Okay, and those 5 are very simply, and this was before the Greeks sort of figured this stuff out. This was tens of thousands of years before, with the ancients, with the pyramid builders. They were using these energies consciously. This level is the level of gravity that's pulling the universe, pulling particles and atoms together, holding them together, and creating you and putting you in your body. And I heard just recently that that quantum physics has shown that every trillionth of a second you become real. You are in, and every trillionth of a second you're back in the void.
Wow.
Okay. And so half the time you don't exist at all. The reason we don't experience that void until we actually do meditation or crystal ball work or healing work, when we do go into the void and we're like, whoa, what was that? Well, that's where you have to live half the time. But the reason we don't is because our brain is wired to survival on this planet and completely focuses on form rather than non-form. And this non-form has information. These are your contracts. And one of the contracts is if you're going to be a leader, you better have a really dynamic body, right? Really strong, really dynamic, able to leap tall buildings, and or be incredibly charming. So everybody you know in any media at all, they're all leaders. Whatever they act like, they're all leaders because they have this dynamic personalities and things, and that's the leader. That would be the fire. And then you've got the achievers, who are the COOs, the organizers, the structure people, the ones that are really step by step on everything and help everybody get where they're going in a more efficient way, and are great to have running businesses because those businesses run like clockwork. And then you've got, and what type of body would they have? They'd have a very evenly balanced, strong, lean and balanced, very straight backs. They very rarely need a chiropractor because they're aligned with they naturally align with their purpose. And then they're good runners, but not like long distance runners, but they're triathletes. So picture the triathlete body. That's the sort of like the typical body of that. Now that, of course, the leaders have huge energy, so they can be lean. They can be, the weightlifters, the bodybuilders. They can also be the people that are 400 pounds. They have these incredibly elastic, because whatever they need to do with their body is what they're going to have to do with their body, because they're leaders. They have to step into those roles. And then there's team players who are going to be more apple-shaped because they have huge hearts. They're warm, they're loving, they give great hugs. They've got thick legs, and because they're very grounded, and they're like, let me help you with that, and let me carry you along if you need carrying, and they're all about you, and so we have, and they're the people that always have a service job, and then we go to the more slight, gentle, the soft people. They're the water. So the team player, we call that the team player, that sort of heavier set, big round face, smiling, always about you, welcoming to you, all that loving kind of energy. Naturally, that would be the ether. They're the ones who pull everybody together. They make sure that the team is well taken care of from the inside, but do not ask to be captain ever. And then you've got these super soft people that we call the emotional intelligence specialist people. And they're your people that that are just like so gentle, wouldn't hurt a fly. A little bug is in the house and they get it on a piece of paper and they take it outside. They don't spray it with with Raid or anything like that. They make sure, and they cry at commercials, and they're very soft, and they can be very overwhelmed by life as well. But they're super soft and loving, gentle space holders. And then you've got the fifth one, which is air. Okay. So that would be water. That would be the water. And then the air is the creatives. And they are the ones that have very tall, thin bodies. They would be the long distance runners. They're going to be the ones that are very lean, rarely put on weight ever in their lives. And are very often not paying attention, right? They're just like, hey, where are you? And like, oh, I was just thinking about something else. And so these 5 people are like the 5 fingers on your hand, okay? Every one of them is essential for any society, any planet, anything. And those 5 qualities you will find in every species. So there are leaders, there are achievers, there are caretakers, there's deep feelers, and there's creatives in dolphins, in whales, in bears, in raccoons, in squirrels, and all you have to do is watch them. And dogs. I mean, everybody's got dogs or cats, and you'll notice that there's some that are just the love, and then others are just like, that they run the house, and then the other cat is the one that's just like, I'm fine. Don't worry, I'll get my food on time. And then if you don't, they're like, meow, meow, why aren't you getting my food here on time? You know what time it is? Come on. That's the achiever. And then there's the caretaker, who's always like, you're feeling down, and they come over and they're like, oh, let me help you, let me do this. And then there's the thinker kitties that I had one when I was a kid, and this was a thinker kitty. I don't know, it had some sort of wound as an early kitty, but but if there was an oven mitt anywhere in the kitchen and it saw it, it would literally leap 5 or 10 feet in the air straight up, and then it would land in whatever it would land in. So funny. But the thinkers are always nervous about, oh my God, they're overthinking, they're overdoing stuff. And it doesn't matter. The universe creates on these 5 energies. Okay. This is why, and human beings can use any of those behaviors to be who they are. And that's why the behavioral studies are okay. They tell you who you've been, but they don't ever tell you who you are unless you guessed right. And almost always people don't guess right, because when you came in as a leader, and we basically, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. If you are a leader, that means you had leader parents, and leader parents don't let leader children be leaders, right? And as soon as a child tries to push their agenda, the parents are like, sit down, you're not going to be that. And so then the leader then says, oh, I can't get control that way. I'll do it by being charming. I'll do it by caretaking and taking care of everybody. I'll do it by totally stepping out and not being there at all, and not having any problems at all. Or I'll, so they can do it. And the same thing with the knowledgeable achiever, who's altogether, if what's needed in the family for them to be accepted and loved the most is being a leader. So maybe one of the parents is the leader, and they're like, okay, I'm going to be the leader. Or again, they could be the team player. The most common misused what we call defenses would be achievement, because nobody's ever going to stop you from working yourself to death. Or caretaking, because nobody's ever going to stop you from coming and vacuuming their carpet. Okay. Pretty much those are going to be the most supported, right? The other ones, they aren't going to get chosen as much, but every one of them, if they aren't accepted for who they are, will try to be one of the other ones that gets accepted. And then it takes a long time to break that vow to be that person. And it takes a lot of suffering, because when you are not being the person you're being, you don't own one of those 5 qualities as your absolute, just like, I've just been that since I was born. What it means is that you're running the wrong energy daily through your chakras. So if I was that guy, I'm one of those guys who's, I'm jumping with the oven mitt. All right. So, and I'm downloading things all the time, but in my world, guys should be, I was a competitive athlete, martial artist. I wanted to be a tough guy. I wanted to win. And I was competing in business, and I was, I started a corporation and started creating products, and I failed dismally at not that I wasn't good at the teaching part of what I was doing, but as far as the structure and the organization, it wasn't me. So I couldn't be that knowledgeable achiever that I pretended that I was. And that's ultimately what killed me. I was running the energy through my body the wrong way. That's where my chronic illnesses were coming from. As soon as I went to energy medicine school and I realized who I really was, all of my ailments just went away. I mean, it wasn't like overnight, it took a year or two of actually remembering and being that person and knowing how to move that energy that way. But your chakras work only, I'm pointing at the chakra system. The 7 chakras only work when you understand your life purpose energy. And because that life purpose energy comes right from God, right from soul. That spin, the reason that you have the body you have, the emotions you have, the actions you take, the relationships that are drawn to you, the people that are drawn to you, the way you speak, the tone of your voice, the way you perceive the world, the way you perceive color and depth and everything, and the way you connect to God and spirit. Those are wired into your purpose in this lifetime, because if you don't share that, nobody else will understand you. And so many people get to their 30s and 40s and say, nobody really even understands me. I don't get, nobody gets me. And a lot of it is not because they don't get you. It's because they can't figure out why you're not being the person they actually know you are, because you're so set on being the one that you have to be. So so we call him the charismatic leader, the knowledgeable achiever, the team player, the emotional intelligence specialist, and the creative idealist. And those 5 qualities. Now, bear with me. Of course, we all have all of them a little bit, because those 5 fingers are never separate. But one of them is always your soul's quality that it brings into every lifetime. And knowing that quality within you is the most important thing you can learn in your life. Because when you are realizing that when you were told that lie that you can become anything you want to become, and then you realize that you can only do one thing in your life, which is what you knew as a kid. When you were 2 or 3 years old, you woke up every day and were like, I'm back. What am I going to do today? And you knew exactly how you're going to operate in anything that you do because there's only one energy in you. There's only one creative force in you. It wasn't until you were lied to and told that you should be all these other things that your life got incredibly confusing. And so I help people find that one incredibly practical thing that you need to be because it's all you are, and then learning how to do it in every part of your life. So it's not like you do one thing and then I only like turn over pieces of paper and that's my specialty. It's like, no, the way you turn over that piece of paper, well, you do that the way you hug your kids, the way you do things, that quality within you is that soul quality, that God quality, that's the part that is your purpose. And it can do almost anything you'd like to do.
So now everybody's excited. Like, I want to know mine. I want to know mine. I know you have a test out there. You have your book.
Yeah. Well, my test is actually offline right at this moment, but
okay.
it'll be back online in a few
Sorry,
months.
folks. I got you excited about that.
It'll be there. It'll be there soon.
Okay. What? Because I want to get into I know we're going to have to start landing the plane here, but let's get into the practical steps. Like, give people 3 things they could do because now they're excited about, okay, what's my soul?
What's my purpose?
Design. What did God create me for? Wow, I didn't know it was expressed in energy and all these things. What 3 practical things can they do today?
The first thing is to look at your body type. You want to know which one you are? And in my book, Discover Your Purpose, you can get my book, Discover Your Purpose, on Amazon, and it'll show all the 5 body types. And do you have a body that was lean and strong and athletic and maybe a gymnast as a kid, and now later in life you're much heavier, or you've really, your body has really accordioned in a way, or you've gained a lot of weight and lost a lot of weight. And you're also a person, so that's number 1. And you're also a person that doesn't like to be told what to do ever. Okay, that would be a leader. Okay, if you're an achiever, you think you're overweight and you've only gained 10 pounds, and you are a person who likes checklists. You enjoy mastery, like you stay with something a long time to really learn about it. You study. As I'm talking here, if you're a knowledgeable achiever, you're constantly checking to see if I'm an idiot or not. Okay? Constantly saying, okay, he's wrong about that, but he's wrong about this. And if you can find enough things, if you can find 1 or 2 things that I'm wrong about, you can just dismiss me completely. Like, he's just an idiot. He doesn't understand anything. So, and because the achiever knows a lot, they learn and they know a lot. And so then they compare what they know with what other people are saying. And they're always looking for new, better information. So I hope I gave you some new, better information, you knowledgeable achievers, because knowledgeable achievers love my work because it's very structural around energy work, rather than just like, oh yeah, the unicorn's going to come and change your life. It's not. It's like, no, these are very, very pragmatic. Not that, hey, listen, those of you who love unicorns, I love unicorns too. No problem there. That's a beautiful consciousness and energy. But really, when you're dealing with your life, the practical application is that those chakras do very specific things and feel very specific ways. And actually, when I was playing those bowls, Jeffrey felt them in different parts of his body, right? So, and it's not about whether you feel that chakra in that chakra. It's about the emotion that chakra elicits in you. So no 2 chakras, you don't have a chakra like anybody else's, but if you don't know what yours does and why it does it. So if you're a leader, you've got a 2nd chakra that's incredibly passionate, right? If you're a knowledgeable achiever, you've got a 2nd chakra that knows how to shut it down and get the job done. If you're a team player with the bigger, sort of more heavy set body from day 1, you've got a 2nd chakra that doesn't really know what you feel, but you know what they feel, and you want to make sure that they're in good and they're taking care of them and they're doing that all of that. And the team player, that if you're looking at whether you're a team player, again, look at your body. You're going to carry more weight, but you're also going to have a very strong back. you are gonna just think about other people all the time. You're constantly thinking about how you can help them. And when anybody says, well, what do you want to do? You always say, no, no, no. I don't know. What do you want to do? Let's just do what you want to do. And you're happy, and you're happy with that. Okay. Once again, if you could play, sometimes people play team players on TV and they're saying those words, but inside you're saying, I don't want to do what they do. Right. Team players actually want to do what you want to do. And then the emotional intelligence specialist, you're going to know you're the empath. You're the one that's over the top, soft and gentle, and you love your little fluffy doggy, and you're not really driven to do anything that is hard ever. You want to have a soft life. You and the little ladybug were so happy to just be there as a child and do that. And when people say suck it up, it makes you cry even more. And really, and now just understand, leaders are very sensitive too, because they have to be sensitive to danger. So they have the exact same level of sensitivity as the emotional intelligence, but they can also, when they get angry enough, they'll key your car, they'll punch you, things like that. But the emotional intelligence, they'll never hurt you. They'll never hurt a fly. Okay, they'll complain. I'm overwhelmed by things. They'll do that. But really, the key is that the emotional intelligence specialist is actually the one profile that holds unconditional love in a way that no one else can. They just know that they just understand love. And so they bring that to the world. And then if you're the creative, well, you're creative. You write all the time, you do things, you're always scattered, you're always going somewhere, you leave the stove on, you're just there. And if you're a creative idealist, tall, thin body. I lift weights all the time, and you can see I'm still up. I guess it's hard to see, but I'm still tall and skinny, and no matter how hard I want to be, and so there's also the next level of this is knowing that every one of your chakras, where is that thing? Every one of your chakras serves these levels here. Okay, but even those levels all have this this quality of leadership. So once you know your purpose in life and you're wondering what you're supposed to do right now in your life, you just ask yourself the question, what would my creative idealist do? Is this thing that I'm about to do going to be interesting for me? Is it going to be different than anything else I've done before? And is it going to make someone else think, oh, wow, that could really change my life? That's a whole thought I've never thought of. If all those things are yeses, I'll do it, right? If you're a leader, you're thinking, what do I want to do next? Because leaders don't stay in jobs for that long. They love like a 2-year and out type of thing. They like to make something happen, inspire people, and do things, and then sell it, get out, or do whatever. But as long as you're thinking, as long as I'm inspiring people to do more in the world, to be better in the world, that's the leader. The achiever is inspired by helping people create systems in their life. As long as I can help people just not go around and around and around in a circle anymore, right? They love that. Team players, what do I want to do? A lot of team players get into bad relationships because they're so nice, and so they attract the codependent partner, the controller, or the manipulator. And when they sort of ask themselves, sometimes they'll say, I'm done with people, but that's not really true. If they really ask their soul what they wanted, it's always, I want to be with people. I just want to support people in being better and seeing how wonderful they are. And that's what they do. And then the emotional intelligence, their whole, if it's like, well, what do you want to do? It's just like, I want to make sure that at the end of the day, I've loved as much as I possibly can. And with everybody that I can. And an emotional intelligence specialist, I know this is hard for people to let in, but emotional intelligence specialists will fall in love 10 times a day and have their heart broken 9 times a day. As long as they fall in love 10 times a day, it's a win. Okay. Because they're like your dog, right? They're not that they're dogs, but like your dog, you go, you're leaving the house and the dog goes, oh, you're leaving. And then you forget your keys and you come back in there like, oh, you're back. That's great. and they fall back in love with you, and then they're like, oh, you just bring and emotionally, the emotional intelligence specialist just loves and wants to connect, and they want to stay with that. So that would be, if you're looking for who you are, those are some simple first steps to kind of seeing which of these 5 soul qualities you are, not behavioral qualities. Each one of those do have behaviors, of course, but it's because it's just, you just can't not be that. You'll just know, I've always been that ever since because your soul quality is not developed during your lifetime. It's something you're born with. And so if you ask your parents, what kind of 2-year-old were you or 1-year-old were you, they'll be describing your soul quality.
Interesting. And so they find that. What's the next step for them?
Well, next step would be, actually, I've got a 7-week crystal bowl course, which I'm actually running right now, but I'll run it again in the fall. And that's a great way to get started, because the first thing you're going to have to do is be able to feel these levels. And when you play a crystal bowl, just like I was playing with Jeffrey and we were having some fun, he wasn't just feeling that bowl, he was feeling his soul quality. And by working with those initially, which is what I do with the students in school as well. So I have a 3-year training in energy medicine. But that's, I would recommend that people come work with me, see if you really, really dig this work, because the sound healing is just and especially crystal bowl sound healing, because we're made of crystal. The crystal bowls, rather than Tibetan bowls or tuning forks, things like that, they really resonate with human bodies. You can see how fast Jeffrey felt it. You probably all felt it the same way. As soon as that bowl plays, literally as soon as it plays, it hits you at all the levels, right? Even though there's a tone that it's also going sub-vibrational, so you're getting that, and it's stacking the overtones all the way to light. And so bowls do something that nothing else does. Crystal bowls do something that nothing else does, because we're crystalline. And so I'd recommend that first, and we'll send a link to, it's crystal bowl. It's easy. It's crystalbowlhealer.com. You go there and just watch that, and I'll when the next round comes, it'll be on there, and that's fun. And then if you're really fired up, my school is full on become a healer and learn crystal bowls at the same time.
Yeah, Rhys, so maybe as we're wrapping up, they find their soul quality.
Yep.
They kind of buy into that philosophy. They find it, okay, oh wow, I never really, saw that clearly. They clear their energy. They align it with the crystal bowls, and then it's not all magically zippy do. It's all perfect, because now, how do you then apply that to your life, right? So you went through your transition. What is that step? Give people a picture window to, okay, you're starting to put the roadmap together. What is it actually like to put it into action?
Well, it's one, practicing, like using your spiritual techniques, not to escape your life, but to embody it. So the first thing first year students do when they're learning this is you have to master 6 things. Okay. You have to master your body, and that's what we just talked about. You have to know why you have the body you have. Why does my right hand hit a really good tennis ball, and my left hand, it plays like a BC level of tennis. Okay. I've spent my lifetime playing tennis, and I still could only play BC level with this. So why does every part of your body work the way it works? Why do your organs, why do your chakras, all that stuff? So you got to master your body first. If you don't master your body, nothing else works anyway. Second thing, once you've realized that, oh my God, of course I got this body, this is why I have it, I've got this profile, and now I got to use it. Now you realize that you've been given very specific kinds of emotions, and you got to master your emotions. And that's the second piece. So the second piece is, mastering your emotions aren't about controlling your feelings. It's about making sure that you express the emotions that are innate within you, and you start recognizing which are the ones you're pulling back, how are you holding back on your emotions, that sort of thing. So that's the second thing. And then once you've got this body that's full of emotion, okay, it wants to do stuff, right? And then you figure out how you master what you're doing, right? How do you master your actions in life? And most of the time, what you'll find is after you do that for a while, you realize that, oh my God, I got all this stuff. I love doing this. And somehow I love just doing it with people. And you realize that the funnest thing that you can spend your time doing is having great relationships, right? So your actions start realizing that this cool body and this cool emotions go great with people, and you have this unique way of making friends and doing things. So that's mastering your time and your focus. And then of course you get to the next level, which is the heart. As we're moving up the chakras, that's the next level, which is you have to master your relationships. And mastering a relationship doesn't mean you go into the relationship and change yourself. You actually go into the relationship and share who you are and learn how to come into balance, learn how to find balance in those relationships. And interestingly, the next level, the fifth one, is master your work. But you won't be able to master your work until you figure out the kinds of people that you love being with. As soon as you figure out the kind of people that you love to be with, now you know all your clients. You want to know your perfect client? The people you love being with. Don't just figure, oh, they got the most money. Those will be my perfect clients. That's an idiotic way to do it. They'll never care about you. Only the people that care about you are the ones that you're going to be able to sell to and work with. So then you get to the fifth chakra or the fifth energy center, and you realize I got to master my business. That means I've got to create a world of friends, not a world where people are paying me for what I do. Okay. And then the final one, which is actually chakra 6 and 7, you have to master your spirituality. And the most important part about mastering spirituality is mastering the other 5. If you master your body, your emotions, your actions, your relationships, and your work, there's nothing else for you to be doing spiritually. The problem is that most people use the 6th level to escape the other 5.
Oh, wow. That's profound.
Right?
Well, I love it. As the whole time you were talking, and thanks for sharing all those jewels, because I know you're passionate and get excited about it. But it's like, most people are going at this, for lack of a better term, ass backwards, right? They're trying to find what they do to find that feeling of what their core soul is designed for. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. I hope you all have gained. One, are excited to learn more about Rhys. He's an amazing person, and I consider him a friend. And I always learn something when I chat with him, which is a tremendous amount of fun. And I don't even know how much time we've been on here, so we're gonna wrap up now. I typically wrap up in prayer, priest. So I'm gonna just do a quick prayer for everybody. And Heavenly Father, open our hearts, our minds, our eyes, and our ears, our bodies, our cells, our chakras, our Taurus fields, our Merkabas, our Taji poles, our Dantian, to all that is you, Lord. Guide us, especially for those that are lost, Lord, that are struggling to their core soul purpose. And let us open up our energies, as I would say, and how you've designed us, Lord, the intent you designed us, Lord. And Lord, I love cooking. So I think what Rhys is uncovering is our divine recipe that makes us us. And maybe give us the cookbook is what we're talking about here. So thank you, Father, in your name, in Jesus' name, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thanks, Rhys.
Yeah. That was beautiful, Jeffrey. All right.